So I'll start off with who knows what a peanut butcher is?
Not I.
Well, the guys who sell newspapers on trains are called news butchers. So I assume a peanut butcher is someone who sells snacks.
No, you were right the first time. This was in an April 1965 magazine. He was the last peanut butcher. And of course, you can't hardly read that. But anyway, the point was just what you said. He walked through the passenger train and sold papers and snacks and things like that. So a couple of years ago, and every November we've been doing an NMRA thing on the AP program. So I'm not going to tell you a lot about that, but I will tell you about the 4 cars that I were judged for the AP car award I got for cars. So, anything is a car that does not have a motor in it or is not self-propelled. So these are the forms, and I'll just zip through those because you don't want to know about that. At least I don't think so. And the first car I did was a stock car. And this is some of the things I did, but I'll go right straight to the car itself. It's an AHM car. I kept the roof, the ends, and the bottom, and the sides were completely scratch built. And the NMRA keeps talking about scratch building cars all the time, but you can make enough points on kit bashing to make the point standard. And in this case, the sides were all made out of wood, but the I guess I can't get my cursor here to point things. All right. So all of the angled uprights were made out of plastic so that they represent metal better. And there's a chain on the door to keep it from opening completely. The one thing that's not in there is the bull bar. And everybody knows what that is, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's a bar that they put on the inside so that the cattle can't push the door open. Now, there's one thing wrong with this car, and the people who judged it really didn't know that, and that is the roof is wrong. That's the wrong pattern completely for that kind of car. And I didn't know that until after I had it in a Northwestern convention model. And Lloyd Kaiser said, you know what, you got the roof wrong. So I never changed it, but that's the way it is. It's got cut levers and all of the air hoses and so forth like that.
So Ron, what is the correct roof?
Well, as I remember it, which was probably 30 years ago, it's the one with the diagonals on it, which somebody can tell me what that roof is. We don't have Clark on there. He would tell you in a minute. Maybe Doug can.
A lot of the early stock cars just kept with their wood roofs because it didn't really matter if they leaked.
I think, see, these I think were made out of metal box cars. So consequently, they had
Okay,
metal.
then they would
metal
have,
roof.
yeah, they would have had the metal. Oh, yeah, I can't think, I don't have the nomenclature for the type of roof it is, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. The standard Athearn boxcar, probably.
Yeah, that might have been better, but the reason I chose this was because the end had the right profile.
Yeah.
Whereas the standard did not, the Athearn did not. Okay, so this gets to the water car. And so I wrote a little thing up about it. The Gandy dancers complained because they didn't have any water. So the Emmons-St. built a water car, and that's true. That is true. And in my case, I had an old truss rod car that I built in 1955, and I had entered it into the NMRA group and everybody says, oh, it's too simple. We can't even judge that. So I took it back home and I made it into a water car. And everything on this except the trucks, the couplers, and the truss rods and the brake wheel are, everything is scratch built. So up at the top, you see the actual Emmett St. L car, and below it is the one I built. And I really made the tank too large. I wished I would have used it a little smaller. I think that's as I recall, that's a dowel. And I wished I'd have made it a little bit smaller than that. Now, of course, the other one used a regular tank car. I took and made a change and took the tank off. That's just a half a tank car, and put a hatch up there. But the rest of it kind of is just what the Emmett St. L had. Obviously, this is a truss rod, a shorter car than the Emmett St. L car was a 40-foot car.
Yeah, I think the M and St. L actually, they probably had a wrecked tank car on their system and they just bought the car and trashed the frame and put the tank on a flat car towards one end, and then they just built a shower enclosure, and the drums up on top are probably there's probably a heater in there, and they have the hot water in those drums and drawing water out of the big tank car to heat up. I think how that functioned, but I could be wrong.
The original one had two 55-gallon barrels. I put one on mine, but it was enough this time to qualify. So the next one is the Emmett St. L push snowplow. And I should tell you, anybody remember the Central Valley trucks that had a snap that you could snap the trucks on and off the
Oh, yeah.
bolster?
Like a dress snap.
It was a
Dress snap,
yes.
exactly. That was their standard design in the early 60s.
Well, that's exactly what's on that car. Okay, so back to the push plow. This is completely scratch built except for trucks and couplers and the headlight casting, some of the brake castings. So the plow itself, I had to make the skeleton on the inside of it in order to get the proper profile of the curve. And then I used the very thinnest plastic that is made to wrap it around that skeleton to make it look like that. And everything in that is plastic. And the last one is the Mullet River caboose. And the reason it made enough points was because there was so many scratch built items on it and so much change from the original kit. Which I see that I am on the agenda for a clinic down at Collinsville on Saturday morning. And I'm done.
Very nice. Thanks, Ron. All right, Bob, you ready to go?
Yeah, let me give it a shot here.
All right.
I have been working on some car weathering. And I've been told that weathering the light colored cars is difficult. So of course I had to start with that. Have a number of Northwestern cars in yellow. So I'll start with this one. This is an AccuRail kit. And it's pretty much straight out of the box. Weathering on it was primarily on the trucks, and I wanted just a very, very light weathering on this. This is a car that was recently repainted in the newer Northwestern scheme. Has just a few trips and a little bit of dust on the side along the sill, a little bit from on the top from a couple of hatches, but otherwise very little weathering on it. So that was the first one. This is the next one, and it's similar in terms of the amount of weathering. I was trying for very minimal effect on the weathering. So again, most of the effort was on the trucks, a little bit of weathering on the underbody. You can't see it very well. There's a little bit around the hatches on the top. This is a tangent air slide. And again, I wanted very little weathering on it, but primarily to get rid of the sheen from the factory paint and show a car that's in service after recent repainting. Next one, Great Western car, and I don't remember whether this is tangent or I forgot the other one, but it's also relatively lightly weathered, just a little bit more than the AccuRail car before it, but primarily focus on the trucks and a little bit of weathering on the hatches underneath to show that it's had a few trips on the road.
Bob, what is the commodity in these cars?
This car on my railroad is primarily carrying hops. The air slide car would be carrying sugar or salt or flour, very fine grained commodities.
The foodstuffs.
Foodstuffs, yep. So the next one on the list, this is an FMC hopper. It's an old roundhouse kit. I've had it for a while. I wanted to show a little bit more wear on this one. This is generally in grain service, probably corn, maybe some soybeans, but primarily grain service. And it's been on the road a little bit longer, was probably weathered a year or two ago, or probably repainted a year or two ago. So it is in the modern Northwestern scheme, but a little bit more wear and weathering on the side. And then kind of wrap it up with this one. This is a stock Athearn Blue Box PS2 hopper. And again, it would be in grain service as well. But it's also that modern Northwestern scheme. But this one is a little bit more heavily weathered. I didn't put a lot of rust on this, but it's got a fair amount of dirt and grime, so it's been in service for a couple of years. Weathering on all of these cars was done primarily with powders, using both AIM powders and the pan pastels. Trucks were weathered with acrylic paint, and I start with I've kind of mixed my own color, and I do it a little bit differently each time, but it's primarily a burnt umber, and then with a little bit of raw umber or raw sienna, and then just a little touch of gray or black to get a little closer to standard rail color. And so this is what they look like in a string. And from the other direction, all going through Lena, Illinois. And that's my my contribution.
Very nice. Those look great. I also thought the in some of those close-up photos, the foliage, the grass with some weeds in there looked very realistic.
Dave Fodness has been working with me, and this is Lena, Illinois on the layout. And Dave has been doing most of the work on Lena, including the static grass and scenery. And he also built the Dean's ice cream plant in the background.
Okay. Nice.
Thanks.
All right. Neil, you're up. And you're muted.
You're muted, Neil.
Okay, thank
There
you.
we go.
There we go, yes.
Okay, here, let's try this. Okay, are you seeing a engine and caboose?
Yep.
We are.
Okay. I was down at Goshen Motors this morning having some service done on my car. And Goshen Motors is halfway between Elkhart and Goshen along the Norfolk Southern Main Line there, 3-track main line. And as I was arriving at 8 o'clock, there was a eastbound train parked that had a couple DPUs in the middle. It was a long train. There was a westbound train parked. Those are on 1 and 3. And shortly a eastbound stack train went whizzing through. And I was sitting inside, couldn't get a picture of it. And a few minutes later, I heard something and looked out the window, and there's a westbound stack train going through. A few minutes later, another westbound stack train going through. A few minutes later, Amtrak 29 heading toward Elkhart, heading west. A few minutes behind that, Amtrak, was it 49 heading west? I didn't get a picture of that either, but decided to go outside and see what might be coming along. And just as I went out, here comes this train from the Elkhart yard heading toward Goshen. And normally it's got a few cars going each direction. So it's coming from your left, going to the right. So it's pushing the caboose. So when it's got a row of cars there, it's, it's called a pusher platform or whatever they call it. And so they can blow the whistle on the wrong end of the train, or whatever you call that end of the train when you're pushing it. So it's heading down to Goshen to pick up covered hoppers. There is a plastic molding thing down there that gets maybe as many as 15 covered hoppers a day of plastic pellets. So then the next picture is, I gotta unshare, don't I? How do I get to the other picture without unsharing? Or not, Greg?
I'm not sure.
Okay, guess I gotta unshare just a second. I gotta get back to the right screen here. Oops. Well,
There you go.
okay. I'm not sure how that happened, but we'll take it.
Yeah, I turned it off.
Okay. And then here's the train a little farther along. See the other end of it. So while I was sitting here, I decided, oh, let's go see what Street View looks like on Google Maps. And so if you can help me unshare again, Greg.
Sure.
Okay, are you seeing some
Yes,
tank
we are.
cars, covered
Yep.
hoppers?
Yep.
Okay, the main line is over here on the left. So toward Elkhart is toward your right, and toward Goshen, or you're in Goshen now, eastbound is to your left. And so they've got a couple tracks here, and they're split by Logan Street. So you can go to Street View and check this thing out from various angles, but they can unload multiple cars at a time. And then it goes over to this building where they do whatever they do with the plastics, mix in colors or whatever the deal is, or mold, or so on and so forth. So you can see the number of cars here. And let's back up a little bit so we can see how many are there. And so it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on that side, and 3 and however many around the bend down here. And then if we scroll down and look between, there's the hoses that they unload the things with. Oops, overshot. Now let's look at it from this side as long as we're here. And there you can see the hoses in here. So that'd be something interesting to model. You wouldn't have to model it to handle 20 cars at a time, but you know, unload multiple tanks at a time, run them through the tubes into the building, and storage down there too. So that is what I've got for this evening.
Very interesting.
Neil,
Thanks,
do you know
Neil.
what Brunk makes?
Excuse me?
Do you know what they make?
It's, they bring in pellets and they either do blending and sell it in smaller quantities, or do molding for the local RV companies or something. I
Oh, okay,
need to look that up. The company is called Brunk.
right. We have a company in Valpo that makes vinyl buckets.
Okay.
We call it the bucket plant, and they get hopper cars full of pellets also.
Yeah, there's a molding place on the west side of Elkhart that gets covered hoppers full of pellets that go down the Elkhart and Western.
Hmm.
In fact, that may be one of their larger customers. Okay, Greg,
All right.
back to
Thanks.
you, and see who else might volunteer.
Ken, I think you're next, right?
Well, not tonight, sorry.
Okay.
I thought I had transferred my pictures that I shot of the drill press to my computer, and I didn't.
All right.
So I can't.
That's fine. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share?
Well, not on a modeling side. This is Tim Coyle. Just want to let you know that last year was the first time I was at the RPM, and we met with the historical societies all together. Well, we're starting to do that quarterly. We had our first one last Saturday, 17 historical societies involved, and the main topic was archiving. So
Nice.
I think we're finally finding that working together is going to be the best for everybody and helping everyone. Some groups already have electronic programs for disseminating their information. One couple of the groups are just starting in archives, and they've been together as a society for over 30 years. So they just finally decided now to start collecting. So
Very good.
very interesting. And also I will be at RPM, but I'm going to be tied down to the Chicago Northwestern table. So if you're looking at models, don't forget to stop by and say hi.
Absolutely.
I met a lot of you guys last year through introductions from Ron, but like to meet as many people as possible.
Sounds great. Thanks, Tim. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can give you a quick tour of where I'm sitting if you're interested.
Okay.
So,
Oh, there you are.
yeah, I'm here. This is the workbench. You may or may not lose my voice, but the camera is going to show you what my big project has been, which we're going to go down this way. And I've been building a new yard. Got all yard through here. And these are hand-built or custom-built turnouts from the Fast Track series. Someone else built them for me. I just put them all down. The yard goes all the way down here. It's about 20 feet long. And then today I've been working at putting in some industrial spurs here. You can see all the weights sitting on them. So we will come in here. The ice house will sit about here. The stock pens that are right there. We'll go back to right here. And then we probably gonna put a lumberyard complex of some sort in this area. Freight house sitting here, and you can see there's the ice dock back there. The ice house in Marshalltown was separated from the ice dock. So, and of course, the passenger depot along the backdrop will be some warehouses and other things. Of course, there's, oh, I forgot the other part of Marshalltown that's been added. This is going to be the Diamond Paint Complex, and then this is Western Grocer in here. This is another building that I'm slowly working on. As you can see, we can spot quite a few cars here at Western Grocer, and there are 3 tracks coming in here. I could not get all 4 in. What's interesting is this whole complex was switched off of switchbacks. This will be the track coming in, and then you have to switch back into the complex to serve it. So that's what's been occupying my time the last few weeks. So, gives you a little bit of a tour.
Very good.
And then, of course, this evening, as we've been talking, I've been putting on shingles.
Doing some roofing.
Yeah, this is one of those old DPM buildings. And I've had the cardboard, a long time it sat without a roof, finally glued the cardboard on and put some wood strips along the edges. And now I'm finally getting around to doing some shingles.
All right.
Keep myself from getting bored laying track.
While the glue dries, right?
Yes, while the glue dries. And I found that sitting over here, I can move my camera over and still watch the big screen and see all your beautiful faces.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
could even get work done once in a while.
Yeah,
So,
your productivity is an all-time high. Well done.
yes. So, well, I'm having an open house in a couple weeks, so I got to get this thing going.
All right, all right. That's nothing like it's nothing like an event like that to get you motivated.
Exactly. Yes. So, but I do
Excellent.
plan to be at Collinsville.
Oh, good.
See some of you down there, and then I also will be at the NMRA in St. Louis a week later.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Doug. And Bob, you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. Neil showed some of the plastics hoppers in Goshen. Let me share the screen again and go back here. This is a facility on not my layout, but Bruce Berta's layout over in Osceola, Indiana. He has just put in a facility to receive these plastic pellet hoppers, and I had a chance to work that a couple of weeks ago. He has a little bit more limited facility than the Goshen operation. He's got 2 tracks. Each track can hold 3 cars, but it seems the operator of this facility wants very particular cars in very particular locations for unloading the pellets. So when I had a chance to operate this, my job was to pick up 2 cars, as I recall, and I think they were the last 2 cars on each of the tracks. But I had to put in 2 new cars, and they did not just replace the cars that were there. So I had to do a fair amount of car shuffling. And as I recall, he also had 3 cars off-spotted for this facility. So it took me between 30 and 40 minutes to do the switching operation on this. And for as little as I accomplished during that time, that seems like an inordinate amount of time, but it was fun to do. And part of the challenge was the fact that all of those gray 4-bay covered hoppers look exactly alike. The only difference is the reporting marks on them. And so you have to be, you have to look very carefully at what you're shuffling around in there.
Yep. Very good. Well, it's almost like we planned it.
Kind of like.
All right.
So, let
I turned you off. Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, good. All right, very good. Well, that was an interesting assortment of topics without planning. So see, we don't have to plan things out. Sometimes it just works out, unlike those switching moves that Bob was just describing. So anything else before we adjourn today?
Just a comment on the plastic thing down in Goshen. If you watch the Elkhart virtual railfan camera, there are people on there that comment about the amount of switching they have to do when they get to Goshen, which is just what Bob was describing on
Yeah.
Bruce's layout.
Yeah,
And so sometimes they, drop off 6 cars and pick up 6 cars and shuffle 9 cars. So whatever
yeah,
the case may be. But if you're on the pan tilt zoom camera, the chat's on the right, and some of the folks talk about that.
very cool.
Greg, in the last 2 weeks, I've ended up with 5 different estates that have come up. People have died off. It's really becoming a real problem. This one guy in Harbert, which I guess we'll go down and see here in the next couple of days, he had a lot of bar mills buildings.
Oh,
I
wow.
have no idea how well he was building them, if he did a really good job or not.
Yeah,
Bar mill buildings are really neat buildings.
yeah, they are.
And if somebody is interested in them, I sent it out this afternoon, the second time. So you need to tell me, because they kind of want it out of there within 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
If nobody wants it, I think she's just going to bring a dumpster in.
Wow.
But we can't let that happen.
No.
Oh,
Well, take a look at it. If somebody's interested in bar mills buildings,
Yeah,
and if you're going to be in Collinsville, I could. That's a way to get them there without having to ship them.
Yeah.
yeah, I've got some real estate I could probably fill. So,
You can point them out to me, and I can. I think in this case, you'll probably almost have to say what you're willing to pay for them. And I talked to the daughter today, and they would certainly like to get something out of it, but they also know that there is a vast amount of modeling stuff on the market. There's a guy down in Warsaw, and I don't think anybody is on here from that group, but that's a huge estate down there. They plan a garage sale. And after the garage sale, whatever is not sold will all go to some dealer at, ridiculously low
Pennies.
prices.
Mhm.
And his stuff is all brand new, bought within the last 10 years. So it's all going to be, and it's all DCC. And I heard that there was like, I don't know, 50, 60 locomotives, Grand
Wow.
Trunk, but I can't remember the other railroad. A lot of track, a lot of, I guess, switches and cars. There will be something coming out on that as to what they're going to take and count, make a list of what they're going to have.
Mhm.
So I guess that's all I have tonight.
All right. Very good. Well, thanks, everybody. Like I said, we'll be off for 2 weeks, and we'll start back up on August 4th, I think it is. And so I'll send a note out to everybody so everybody knows what's going on. But I'm sure I'll see a lot of you guys at the RPM meet in Collinsville. Looking forward to that, and have a great night. Thanks for joining.
See you guys.
yeah. Thank you, Greg.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Greg.
You all.